Peace be with you everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Trevor, very grateful to have you here. And today's video I'm going to be doing a full review of a fragrance, and that fragrance is this Viking from the House of Creed. So I'm going to go over a brief introduction about the fragrance, talk about the major notes and accords that stand out to me, compare it to a few other fragrances on the market that I've gotten my nose on that I think smell similar or in the same ballpark. Then I'm going to talk about a few real-world comparisons that I think will help translate the scent profile. After that, going to move into taste, texture, and tone, talk about those facets of the fragrance and try to translate the scent profile in terms of the other 5 sentences, and then move into projection, performance, and popularity in terms of the aspects of the fragrance of longevity and things of that nature. Finish off with who, when, and where, what kind of person I can see wearing it, what time of the day and season, and then finally add my rating out of 10 and the best price that I've seen at the discounters to pick this one up at. So beginning with this, it is a 2017 release, Viking from the House of Creed. Unknown perfumer, we don't know who the actual perfumer is. They list Olivier Creed, but we know that they use ghost perfumers in order to come up with their products. So my money would be on either Julien Rasquinet or Christophe Renaud. I think they were some of the perfumers that Creed was using in-house to come up with these creations. And other than that, this issuance of the bottle is a plastic cap if you're concerned over batch code or what kind of scent profile I'm reviewing here. I'm not sure about different batch variations on this one. I don't think I've seen much talk about it, at least in the same vein as Aventus has been getting talked about reformulations, but some of the major notes and accords that stand out to me with this one, I'll try to post the full note breakdown on the screen, but really there's 5 standout ones for me. They're going to be peppermint, clove, pink pepper, sandalwood, lavender, and then a 6th kind of supporting player being rose. And although it's not really in your face, I would still consider this very much a rose fragrance. Could maybe even make a few rose fragrance lists. And I think the rose also adds a nice coloration to the fragrance, which I'll talk about when I get into taste, texture, and tone. But so you have these major notes and accords going on in here: fresh, spicy, aromatic, definitely a barbershop fougere style genre of fragrance with that more hot, spicy aspect going on from the pink pepper and clove. And now the way that I would describe this fragrance in terms of relating to everyday scent profiles, the first is that it's a little bit like an autumn wind, a very brisk, almost biting kind of sensation, like a howling wind, something that's very invigorating, like when you first walk out on that change of weather and there's a howling wind coming through, carrying in that first bit of cold after the summer starts to die out. There's just that sense of invigoration that comes from that. Something I feel like I've experienced at like a bus stop when the change of weather is going on at the beginning of the school year. So you get hit with this blast of like a very invigorating mixture of hot and cold, which is sort of like where tornadoes come from. I feel like that is somewhat of a sensation that this gives me. Somewhat of a Christmas barbershop, like you're going into a very well-established gentleman's barbershop during the Christmas season. Maybe there's some potpourri going on in terms of the decorations, adding to that festive scent profile in the air, alongside of the clean shaving foam vibe. Peppermint bark and lavender. So peppermint bark is somewhat like a toffee candy that's made out of like melted chocolate and ground up candy canes. So serving like a platter full of peppermint bark alongside of stalks of lavender, I feel like does a pretty good job of coming up with this scent profile. And then also I want to say it's very comparable to something like mixing Icy Hot and shaving foam, like Icy Hot being that pain relief cream for sore muscles, and then you take the shaving foam Barbasol kind of scent profile, mix those 2 creams together, and you get something pretty close to this fragrance. Definitely hot and cold. So speaking of hot and cold, we'll move into taste, texture, and tone. I want to say that this is spicy, sweet, and bitter. The bitter aspects are a little bit less medicinal and just more leaning into the green herbaceous side of things. The spiciness coming in from the clove and pink pepper, and there's a lot of sweetness coming in from, I think, maybe tonka bean. and the lavender mixing together to give that barbershop fougere feeling. Definitely a little bit of a vanillic tone going on as well in this dry down. Sandalwood also gives a little bit of a sweet, creamy, woody facet to this fragrance. And so that's the taste. The texture, I would say that this is very much a doughy fragrance. Doughy, like a flour type, sugar cookie kind of textural feel is the prominent note or texture that I get off of this fragrance. There's also a little bit of a cackling aspect to it, crackling. So it's almost like a sparkly citrus, like that same type of sensation, but it's more of a fiery feeling than a nice burst of water. So you get something similar to a sparkle feeling, but it's more of a crackle, I want to say. It's like a slight bit of rough edge around the whole doughy aspect coming in from that clove and pink pepper. And we'll go ahead and put this on skin here. Check out the atomizer for you. I'll remind myself of the opening and the scent profile. There's also a smoothness to this fragrance. It has a little bit of a rounded out sort of wood feel, like something that you like, some wood that you just got done sanding, but there's still a little bit of a roughness coming in from the imperfections of the wood because it hasn't been stained and polished, but it's still very smooth. So it's a kind of like a rough smoothness is another way that I would describe this fragrance in terms of its texture. So like crackling, sanded wood, doughy, a little bit coming in from that sort of tonka bean lavender, I want to say. And then the tonality of this fragrance, very much a hot and cold at the same time. It's very bright and invigorating. It is very much a daytime fragrance, I want to say. It has that grown up, put together kind of gentlemanly feel about it. So it is classy as well, even though it's got this rugged aspect to it coming in from the Viking. And then if I had to compare it to some other fragrances that are on the market currently, I would say that this is a good combination of something like Old Spice, as you can see with a reference to the sailing ship, as well as Guerlain's Heritage, which is another sandalwood fougere, like a sandalwood shaving foam. I feel like this combines those two scent profiles rather well. If you're familiar with those fragrances, this is a good way to kind of picture what this one has to offer. In terms of the performance, projection, and popularity, the performance, I get a good like 6 to 8 hours, so just about average, I want to say. It will still suffice for a full work day, and you can still smell it wafting around. The projection, I only get about an hour, where I feel like other people can pick it up on me, and then it kind of dies down into something where I'll still get wafts throughout the wearing experience, but it's not going to be projecting a lot to the point where people will smell me from across the room. I'll have to somewhat approach them for this to kind of wear in their field of sense, but it's still something that I think adds to the gentlemanliness of this fragrance. It's not shouting at you. It's definitely just like a subtle class. And then as far as popularity, it's not something that I really get compliments on, as is the case with most fougere fragrances. Even though it's my favorite genre of fragrance, it does not seem to garner a lot of positive attention, although it has never once received me any negative attention. So they definitely are good for that inoffensive style wearing experience if you're maybe going to the office or just looking for an inoffensive scent profile because you like those sort of easy daily wear office signature scent fragrances. I think this is a great one for that genre of wear. And then in terms of who, when, and where this fragrance is good for, I think this would be great for 30-year-old men. It's definitely more on the masculine side of things. I wouldn't say that this is unisex, as most fougeres are very masculine. And then I could also see somebody that is in a position of authority wearing this fragrance, somebody that's high up in a hierarchy, whether that be a manager, a principal, or even just a father who's the head of a household. I think this is well suited to people that are in those positions of authority. I could also see people that have red hair pulling this off quite a good bit. It's very much a fiery style fragrance, that fire and ice sensation. It makes me think of people with like a red beard. Outdoorsmen, people that go fishing and hunting for sport as a recreational style activity. I think this would be well suited to people that are into that type of activity. Also, I could just see Santa Claus wearing this fragrance, that fiery, icy hot aspect, his red suit, while also living up in those Nordic regions, is very much something that kind of comes to mind for me with this fragrance. Very much red, green, white, pink. These are some of the colors that come to mind when I'm wearing this fragrance. Just spoken about that in the tonality. But yeah, very much a red, green, white color sensation. A little bit of pink coming in from that rose, like almost reminds me of having rosy cheeks from being out in the cold. Definitely a daytime fragrance. I would wear this more in the day than at night. And transitional seasons, springtime and autumn, are where I think this one shines the best, as is the case with most fougere fragrances. And as far as occasions that I would wear this, I could see it being worn in almost any situation, so I would make this a signature scent if I could. I also think the office is a great spot for this one, as well as I would even wear this to the gym. I think this is great for sporty type activities, whether that be gym or hiking, straddling those two spheres of activity. And semi-formal, I think this would be great for like a brunch or some kind of business meeting, or just meeting up with somebody on like a first date. Just these, maybe not like a first date at night, but you know, like a meeting up with somebody for, like I said, a brunch. Like semi-formal, signature, office, and sport are going to be the major genres of wear that I would pick this one for. And then if I had to give this a final rating out of 10, I'm going to rate this an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoy this fragrance quite a bit. It's more than average with that 0.5 after the 8. So the only reason I'm knocking it is because this is rather expensive, and it is also not mass appealing. So both of those factors kind of give it a dock from me. This generally is hard to come by for less than 200 and let's say $250. I think that's what I paid for mine from Joma Shop. And that was my full review of Creed Viking. Let me know what your experience was with this fragrance in the comments section down below. And as always, I really appreciate you sticking with me to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.